Yeah.
I have a very minor question.
Hmm.
Basically, when I saw the first sutra of this fifth chapter,
Hmm.
I kind of felt that uh, this was written in a different period by the Sankhyacara, because he starts with a, though he's explaining about Mangalacharanam, the word Mangala he starts with, which itself is great Mangalacharana. So he starts fifth chapter with a Mangalacharana, which he kind of did not really do in even in the first chapter, where he just started with the traditional Atha, which
Hmm.
is fine. But so this gives me a feeling that this, though it has been clubbed along with the rest of Sankhya Sutra in one uniform flow, it seems to be period wise different.
No, no, I don't think so. Because here actually Mangalacharan does not refer to the Rudi earth of that verse which is said, or even a few words like Atha. Uh, Atha is actually considered as Mangalacharan enough. Okay, but it is not said in that way. The meaning here is Kalyanakari Acharan. So it is actually going back to the yogic earth, not the Rudi earth of a padya or some few words to denote a happy beginning, an auspicious beginning.
Yeah,
Okay,
actually,
and did he use the repetition? I don't recall particularly seeing the chapter and repetition technique earlier.
No, everywhere,
Oh,
each
it was
chapter.
there. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, 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 okay.
Okay. Who was saying, Prashanti?
yeah. Rather, my reflection on the very first sutra of the fifth chapter was like it. I don't know. Yeah, I just reflected upon it, and it put a lot more responsibility on more from my shoulders to be on the righteous path, because it kind of tells you that you are responsible for what's happening around you. Also, your karma is not just you will only gain the karma phala, but it's kind of spread to the society also. Like if
Uh,
you are on the path of good karma, like it reflects in the society, kind of a gist I got from the uh, very first sutra actually.
okay.
um,
I'm not sure I read that much into it, but what your thought is, that is correct in the sense that the universe which is there around you, the people you interact with, the things you interact with, the environment you are living in is actually determined by your karma only. So you
that
are,
that we take it from the Yog Darshan also.
yeah,
uh, Here I'm just going back to the
I
very
think she's
first.
talking about the rinas, which are slightly different.
No, 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 no. I'm not talking about the Rinas. I'm just going up. Uh,
yeah, Mangala Charanam Shishtacharat Phala Darshanat
yeah, very first one, very first sutra,
Shruti.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
very first, as in first chapter or Panchamodhyaya only?
No, no, this one, in the
This one.
fifth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is Mangala
So,
Charanam Shishtacharat Phala Darshanat Shrutita Cheti.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So, it's like I
From
somehow felt
Shishtachara you
like,
are reading. From Shishtachara you are
yeah,
reading that my behavior is should be emulatable by others.
yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that is correct. One should always behave in a way in which is uh, something worth emulating.
yeah,
Always
so here,
someone should be there.
especially the paragraph where you say it has been found practically that good deeds lead to good outcomes, while good people may themselves suffer considerably, their deeds help to increase the overall happiness quotient of the world.
Yeah,
So that kind of, left a greater impact on me to be, more on
yeah,
the
yeah.
righteous path no matter what. So yeah, that's a really profound thing to say actually.
Yeah.
Probably we know in somewhere we do we do relate to it, but we never reflect upon it in that way. How you worded it and how the sutra says. So the wording really mattered a lot. So
Yeah, yeah. It's actually, we sometimes uh, discount the effect of one individual on their society, and that individual need not always be the most powerful individual in society at that point in time, but your very actions, your words can actually change the course of history. So we must always behave with great responsibility that could change our society. Always we should be aware of that, and weigh our own actions against what is right and wrong.
Yeah, always assume a candid camera around us.
Correct, correct. That is right. Okay, so Prashanti, I think, has told us what influenced us the most. I would like each one of you also to tell what was your biggest learning from this chapter. It was quite an important chapter. Actually, it covered a lot of ground, and some very important concepts were covered. So I hope each one of you found something which was.
See, as far as I'm concerned, I like the first one, first shloka, Mangalacharan, where says you must be righteous. The dharmic one has to be very, very dharmic, as you explained that. And the better is that all our 6 or 7, that kama, krodha, and all, if it just reduces and we become a selfless person,
yeah,
we can accrue more and more of the what we say, good karma phalas.
correct, correct.
So that's the one thing I liked it. Another is this happens to be the Satyavadi, Satya Karyavada. Nothing comes from the nothing. No, it's something is there, that's why it comes something. So
yes, yes.
that's one thing I liked it. And where it says that Vyapak and Vyapti, and it without that is not there. And then there's what about this one is a deep sleep. We do experience that calmness of our body, our mind at that time in the sushupti, and then samadhi we have not done it, so I can't say that. But many of the times we have experienced that peacefulness which we get it during the sushupti avastha.
Correct, correct.
And lastly, that yes, our body is a what you say, ubhaya body. So we enjoy ourselves as well as we try to do some good to the society also. Try to do some good. So these are the very salient feature which I could that has made impression on me.
Wonderful, great. Then anybody else would like to take up now?
Yeah. So for me, the biggest learning was that about how our karma phalas is given to us by God based on the intention we have when we do the acts. The thought or the desire that we have.
Yeah.
So that is so that's the thing, and of course the existence of God in that, and I quite like the way he presented that what all could God be. I mean, is he like a benevolent king, or is he like more of a socialist, or those kind of things?
Yeah.
And then he said that no, God is like watching everybody, and he understands the intentions, the inner workings, like how Prashanti and all said that we have to do something right because we think it is right, and we know that God is watching us, kind of. So that was the biggest takeaway from me. The other part I liked was I was always confused that how the soul is untouched, and I think this was one thing in this chapter that came out clear, that all the gunas are the properties of the mind and not of the soul.
Yeah.
So that was one part that cleared a lot of things for me, and for taking it on from there, how the soul in only atyanta dukkha nivritti is possible, that the bliss is actually not really a property of the soul, but because of the connection or the proximity to God, there is a sense of, wellness or happiness or bliss. So
Yes.
that was another thing that I kind of understood from this topic, from this
Great.
chapter.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Okay. Who's next?
I liked some of the presentation aspects of this chapter with respect to, of course, you and the earlier commentators have done tremendous work identifying the Purupaksha points and how the Uttarapaksha link up, because they're not exactly side by side. Some of them are clustered as series of Purupakshas and then a series of Uttarapakshas corresponding.
Correct.
So only with the Bhashyakara we can hope to dig this. It's not directly hitting us in the face, just like
Yes.
Prashanti got confused with a certain sutra.
Yeah.
So the other thing I appreciated in this chapter was enormous number of verses dedicated on defending and explaining what Veda is and what we should not call it out for. I think
Yes.
very practical approach of describing, that some people are become esoteric and say Veda is Nitya, Veda itself is God and all that. No, Veda is just the word of God. It is having a birth, and
Yes.
don't
Yes.
take it like that. It may be get reborn, but the eternal truth is one, which is really Paramatma, is coming out there, though it doesn't directly mention it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Vedas
So
are
also he doesn't seem to focus on this aspect of trying to be Dvaitin, Advaitin, Traitin, etc., which we color things with. He's just gone about defining what he sees in various things. That's it.
He does cover Dvaitis. Advaitis, in a way, maybe in his time they were not called so specifically that, but he is actually addressing people of that belief, because those beliefs must have existed in his times as well. So he has covered people's different beliefs, and in fact these people were great seers, so they even saw the future and would often see that, okay, one can have this doubt, if not today, later on one can have this doubt that something X is Y and X is not Y, so they would address even that particular opinion in their this thing. But definitely he has covered the opinions of which were there or may come later in the future.
Just want to add one thing there, Uttarajit. I think what he stated is Vedas, though they are born out of the sound of the god or whatever, they are also eternal. Rather,
Yeah.
whenever there is a yuga completed, or however we call it, whenever there is complete dormancy, it also goes into a nikshipta form or whatever. But then again, the Vedas are eternal. It is just that it becomes non-available, if I have to say.
And what you must appreciate there is that they are eternal in that form.
Yeah, eternal in the same form.
Yeah, it is very difficult for us to accept this fact that if we have one sun and one moon, then another planet on which there may be another civilization that will also have one sun and one moon. We are so used to, we are brought up in a scientific sci-fi movie era, and also even if that was not the case, we might have thought that there could be life where on a planet which had two suns. But while this is not said, but I am telling you based on my thinking and the fact that they are saying repeatedly over and over again that exactly like this Vedas will be available to humans in all civilizations. What that also implies is that a civilization will be born under almost the same circumstances. The differences between, because Jyotish is covered in the Vedas, so it talks about the earth rotating around the sun, etc., etc., the moon rotating around the earth. So all this Jyotish part is all the nakshatras which are there, those are all mentioned. Another possibility is that maybe to that extent Vedas might change from one place to another. In another planet Earth, maybe the nakshatras are different, so different this thing is given. Nakshatras are mentioned over there in the sense that their position in the sky, their appearance may be different. I don't know. But the fact that preacher after preacher, seer after seer has said that the Vedas are eternal, each word is as is in all civilizations, makes one feel that maybe the whole circumstance of civilization, of human civilization, will be very similar, extremely similar. I may be wrong here. Anyway, it doesn't matter. These are very theoretical discussions, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay. Mala, you want to add something?
Uttira,
Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Who's going ahead? I'm not
Somebody
sure.
was speaking, no? Okay.
Go ahead, Mala.
See, so for me, this chapter was kind of enlightening in many ways, because lot of questions about the karma phalas, the deeds, how it is carried over, the relationship between body and soul, why, how the soul can seek a different body, existence of God. All this was, I like the topic very much, basically because I could understand these points, these points easily, because of the explanations that you would give, and the way it is also explained. The verses have kind of there are verses for each of these points. That is what I liked about. So as I said, karma phalas, then relationship between body and soul, existence of God. All this is, enlightened. I got more knowledge about on these topics.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Is somebody left out? No, I think.
Yeah, I have one more.
Yeah.
Uttira,
yeah.
One thing which I really liked in this chapter, where Kapila says, for everything we cannot give the proof or evidences and all. So we need to believe somebody also, those who have already experienced that. So that's the one thing, because for everything, scientific mind always asks for the proof. Unless you give the proof, the evidence, objective proof, they don't believe in that thing. But
actually, that is not what he says, Gauri, because what he says is that for everything, all three types of proofs are not required. So what
Anumana, Anumana and all.
So Pratyaksha, Shabda and Anuman, all three need not be present for everything. I am giving it to you in this particular case, but that does not mean that each pramana does not stand by itself. So what you are talking about, and I think Mr. Chandran has also always exercised about this, that how do we convince other people. The thing is that we are brought up in a Western system in which Shabda Pramana is not considered as a Pramana. Okay, everything is direct witnessing. While it is not listed as a way in which we gather knowledge, it is actually used all the time, because it is impossible for one human being to experience and prove for themselves that yes, this is correct. So we have to depend on experts to tell us that it is like this. Now COVID-19, this virus only is causing the disease. How can you say? You have not seen, you have not tested, you have not looked under the microscope and seen that this person is sick because of COVID-19. So we accept the doctors and the experts who tell us that this disease which everybody is experiencing is because of this virus which looks like this. So all this, if you see, some 95, maybe even 99% of the knowledge which you have is actually somebody else's knowledge. It is the beauty of language that it is able to transmit that knowledge, and all of us can gain the knowledge of somebody else. And so we stand on the shoulders of giants, as Newton had said. Each one of us is standing on the shoulders of our forefathers who have thought of all this, on the shoulders of all these experts who have thought of all these various things and have told us that this is how it is. So it is absurd to think that each thing we must prove to ourselves. Yeah, I will tell you one, in our Arya Samaj only, I met one person whose actually father, in fact, was a very big sannyasi called Narayan Swami, and he has written the bhashyas of all the Upanishads and even Darshan Shastras to some extent. He was a very well-known name. But he tells me, I don't believe in moksha and all that. I've never seen it. How do you say that there is moksha? So I said, fair enough, you have not seen any mukta person, you have not seen anybody who is even close to moksha. We have not even seen a person who can do samadhi properly. So I said, so uh, do you believe that the earth is round? So he said, yes. So I said, but have you seen the earth being round? The earth, as far as you can see, it is flat only. It is uh, just level, horizontal. So how are you believing it to be spherical? If you need to prove everything on your own account. So then he was quiet. So I told him, this is what is Shabda Pramana. We take so much from other people. As far as we are concerned, we can only experience so much, prove so much. Most of the rest of the stuff comes to us through Shabda Pramana only. So it is silly to say something like this, that I will prove everything for myself afresh. This is like um, um, reinventing the wheel over and over and over again. It is a foolish thought. Even in the Western system, they are using Shabda Praman all the time, but they just don't know that they don't have a word for it called Shabda Praman. They don't even see it as a fact that I am exchanging, I'm imbibing, I'm accepting this knowledge from somebody else.
Okay.
So this is the beauty of our system, that we have very clearly laid out that there is, one is Pratyaksha Praman, one is Anumana Praman, which I logically deduce from whatever I have, the Pratyaksh knowledge. And also I could even take Shabda Praman and deduce. For example, just now that all my theoretical thing I told you about the various planets on which civilization might exist. This is just combining some Pratyaksha and some Shabda. So we can derive information from either your Pratyaksha or from Shabd or from both. And we can combine that and reason out a lot of things. And Shabda Praman is very, very important. And Vedas are at the base of Shabda Praman. I, from my side, would just like to give you this one, Na Dharma. What is this? 20th sutra, something related to this only. Na dharma apalapaha prakriti karya vaichitrya. That dharma cannot be refuted based on the various types of things which we see in nature. So this is most important, which you must carry away from here, that dharma is something which I will not refuse. I will not refuse. However much other people may question you and may, tell you what is dharma, on what basis are you saying that this should be done and this should not be done. You should do based on your own beliefs, what you feel. But many times we are, what we feel is based on our own swabhava. And sometimes our swabhava is not always very pure, in which case we may feel selfishness or cruel ideas. We have to then look at dharma, and we must spend a lot of time to understand what is our dharma and make sure that we follow it yatha shakti. Yatha shakti is something which I also misuse to some extent, but I feel it is. I do try to
true. Yatha shakti, we all have to try it.
You must try it. Yes.
Yeah.
Our swabhav also, we need to take it in the direction of dharma. All this we are reading just so that we understand what is right, and then we head in that direction. our natures may pull us in the opposite direction, but we have to try and head in the direction of that.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we'll close it here. Good, this ends our 5th chapter. We will start with the 6th one next time. I hope you have no questions regarding the mantras which we are
Yeah, I sent
chanting.
it.
No, okay. So let us chant our mantras. Om Abhayam Mitrad, Abhayam Amitrat.
Om Abhayam Mitrat, Om Abhayam Mitrat.
Abhayam Jnatam, Abhayam Puroya.
Abhayam Jnatam, Abhayam Puroya.
Abhayam Naktam, Abhayam Devanah.
Abhayam Naktam, Abhayam Divanah.
Sarva Asha Mama Mitram Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti
Shanti.
Dhanyavadah.
Dhanyavad.
Namaste.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Uttara.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Uttara.
Thank you, Uttara.
Bye.